Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, and welcome to the pod where we chat, argue, and wax poetic about the movies and shows that we love, hate, or are simply worth talking about. All movies have something to say, and we enjoy trying to analyze what they capture. Welcome to the Shatter After. I am Brandon Alvarado, the Scarlet Fan here, and I'm so excited to be back here for another take of the Shatter After, where we analyze to death the things that we love to watch, love to play, love to talk about, love to listen. And today is a very special day because I am joined by the Shatter After crew that is made up by Mr. Isaac Wolf.
Enter Metallica song here.
Wow. And he doesn't even know what Stranger Things is. Um, and our good friend, voice actor for Fena, also voice actor in Broken Road, and co host of the amazing Nacho Average Padres podcast, which is awesome, Rob Moreira. What's up, man?
Chillin', dude. Thanks for having me once again. Always a pleasure hanging out with y'all. Getting
Yep.
to talk about some good geeky stuff, because it's my
Yes.
favorite.
Yes. And today we're talking about something dreadful, mystical, heartwarming,
All of the
mystifying,
above.
everything. And that is Netflix adaptation of DC Vertigo. Let's be specific now. The Sandman. The Sandman,
Yes.
written by Neil Gaiman. This book has filled people's imaginations and filled them with wonder and terror, but because not only because they're fantastical stories, but they really dig deep into what it is to be human. And even though we're following a god figure or a deity kind of thing, there's a lot of things going on in this show that make it amazing. And Netflix has kicked it out of the park. Batted out of the park. I don't know. I'm all over the place because this show is great. It's anything as close as a perfect show can be, and we're here to just to gush about it, talk what we loved, what we liked, what we didn't like, how much we liked it more than the adaptation, or as an adaptation, or as a translation of the source material. There's a lot to talk about this show. So let's not waste any time and let's go straight to our thoughts on The Sandman. I figured let's go around the table first and talk about our experience with the source material, if there's any, and then we'll jump into the show. And Rob, you're the guest, so you go first.
Oh, oh, yay! I love going first. Well, I gotta say, there aren't many shows that have done the adaptation of its source material true justice. There's very few that have done it like successfully. Invincible, I think, is was one of them. Even though that was animated, I feel like that really
Yeah,
translated the graphic novel incredibly well. Um, the Boys, I think, has done a really great job as well of adapting its source material. A lot of things, obviously, in those two shows. There's things that are obviously omitted, and some things have been changed for the sake of flow of the story and whatnot. But it keeps the same ideas intact, which I think is really cool. I mean, even some characters have been some had gender swap, but I think they work. Like Stormfront in the Boys season 2, Stormfront was a male character, but in the show it was a female character. But it worked. It they made it make sense, and even though you're familiar with the source material, you don't miss its original form. It doesn't
right,
feel like an attempt at diversity, which you can
correct,
feel in certain shows when they force the diversity, it lands flat. And in the Boys, that never happened. Like, it changed, but it never felt like, oh, they made it a woman because they needed a woman bad guy, or whatever the case may be. You were just kind of like, oh, Stormfront's a horrible human being, and male or female, they're just terrible, and this is great. Um, so the Sandman, though, was one I was a little leery about. I think we're always leery when they're adapting something that we're fond of. And the Sandman, I read the graphic novels a while ago, several years ago. I actually have all of them still in my graphic novels collection. It's one that I've always enjoyed. I always thought was so interesting. I read it incredibly late, which is funny considering that the show itself is now several years from when I read it, and even from when I read it, I was late to the party basically because the Sandman has been around for a while, and I was hesitant. Then I saw the trailer, and then I was excited, but I didn't want to get too excited just in case. And then I saw episode one, and I was like, "Whoa, they hit the mark hard on the atmosphere." Morpheus, that casting was like perfect. I'm like, where did they
Inspired.
find this guy? He looks like Morpheus. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And visually, the show captured the feel of the graphic novel as well. They really took what was already there to heart, and it helps that Neil Gaiman obviously had a part in it, which I think helps. It's always good having the creators nearby because they know it's being adapted, they know things are going to change, but having the creator around will always keep it faithful to what they did. And which I think if you were to compare something like the Sandman to like Alan Moore's works that became movies, and seeing how those, not that they fell flat, but they felt separate. And it's
Right.
because the creator wasn't there for the blessing. And when they're not there, something gets lost in the translation. And you really don't feel that with the Sandman. So I think it was an incredibly well done adaptation of the graphic novels. And it was so awesome to see it done live. And I have, I feel like I always have at least one character that I would say, this was a weak actor or this was a weak character. But overall, the show was good. I didn't feel that was the case in the show. I feel like
Right.
everybody was a strong actor. Every
Yeah.
character was a strong character. So it was impeccably cast. But yeah, I nothing but great things to say. I was blown away and happily satisfied.
Isaac.
Well, as most people know, I don't read that much DC comics or Marvel comics. I'm more of a manga guy, and pretty much always have been. And I am looking after the tweet in particular right now. But in essence, I said,
I was waiting for you to say, I don't read at all.
yeah. Well, now when it
I
comes
thought
to,
I was like, oh, okay, Isaac.
I just need the pictures.
I
Like just
Just give me
read. I was just talking about what stuff I
yeah.
fantasy novels, though, but as in traditional novels.
Mhm.
But the thing I wrote was pretty much this, and this is coming from someone that isn't like I said close to source materials of all that. Yes, Sandman is easily the best live action show, probably my favorite if we speak live action only, I've seen in ages, and quite frankly, it's the best DC Comics have been since Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight.
There's truth to that.
Yeah. When it comes to my my favorite shows of all time, it's Violet Evergarden, but I was figured if we count live action, well, that's why I added that one.
Yeah. It's it's have you read the books?
Nope. But
So this was
honestly,
your first contact. But you've read Gaiman before. You just haven't read The Sandman,
I
right?
have read his North mythology book.
Cool. Cool. So as this first introduction to have you is this the first Neil Gaiman show that you've watched?
Uh, I've seen Sandman, if or no, it's not Sandman. I've seen Stardust, which is
Okay.
supposedly written.
Yeah, it's based on another book of his. I mean, Gaiman has had a lot of stuff adapted too. Like it's not just like this is not the first thing they've adapted. Because I know there's Stardust, American Gods, Good Omens. That's all Gaiman too.
Yeah, and American Gods did incredibly well.
Yeah. Yeah, and Good Omens was pretty good. Was pretty good in Prime too. Like it
Mm.
blew up a little bit too. Um,
Uh,
so I've only read the first book, Preludes and Nocturnes. That's all I've read. That first volume, and it was one of those books that was came highly recommended by one of my more. I love Kevin Smith and Mark Bernardin over there at Fat Man Beyond. I listen to their pod a lot. I love what they do, the energy, what they bring, pretty much what we do, and just talk. But of course, they're freaking Kevin Smith and Mark Bernardin.
mm,
And he would always talk about the Sandman, and
mm,
like that's one of the best book that he's ever read ever, and
mm,
it's big praise from him. So I figured I'd check it out, and instantly the art style in that book, it's unlike anything I've ever seen before.
mhm,
Um, and that's me talking about it, and I've probably read it 2 years ago. So I've seen a lot of stuff. I've read a lot of stuff. But even now, even to this day, that art style feels like something else. Like
mm.
there's this ethereal energy in the way that everything is portrayed and colored.
Yeah.
Um, and also the way that it's narrated. Like in those moments where like you can feel that Neil Gaiman is just like talking to you, the reader, and just breaking that wall, right? And
Mhm,
walking you through that. Like that book was just great. Um, and the idea of the fact that your main character is this deity like person, and you're supposed to care for him, which is always very hard to do. Like like the reason
mm,
why Thor is a very lovable character in my mind in terms of Marvel is because even though he is considered God, he's kind of an arrogant child. So you kind of already see like he wears his flaws on his sleeves. So it makes it easy for you to relate to him as a character. But then Morpheus is this stoic character that he's not even a character, he's a presence. It's this kind of thing. Like I always talk about how Batman we've always talked about Batman, and whenever we talk about Batman, one of the things that I love about the character or is that Batman is also a presence. Like there's something happens when Batman's in a room. Like
mhm.
like like the temperature changes or like the mood changes. The same thing goes with Morpheus. Like the show still has that, but no pun intended, that dreamy air to it in the way that is shot, in the way that is directed, in the way that is presented to the viewer. Um, it feels like you're watching something particular and unique. It doesn't feel like your run of the mill show. Apart from the fact that whenever they need to go big in terms of scale of like his castle, hell, like they go big. Like when they go
Mhm.
to the Desire's realm, they go big, and
Yeah.
everything looks elaborate. It doesn't look cheap, right? Um, like it's one of those projects where you can tell that everyone involved knew what they were making and they put that care into making it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like you mentioned Zack Snyder's Watchmen, because I know that's kind of like the avenue that you were going with.
Mhm.
Um is like the one thing that Zack Snyder was, because if you were talking visually, I mean, it's amazing. Which
Oh,
again,
well,
Zack
well,
Snyder's
yeah. Zack
Zack
Snyder has a
Snyder's
knack for that. Like, he definitely has
yeah,
a knack of
right,
capturing the visualization of whatever he's adapted.
right,
I mean, we saw that with 300. That was incredibly faithful visually to
right,
its source material, and same as Watchmen. A lot of what you saw in Watchmen was literally ripped from the pages of the
right.
comic book. So yeah, no, visually, it was on point.
Right. And but the essence of what
Right.
made the book, right?
Right. The
The
spirit
essence
of
of
it.
what the spirit of it is what for some reason he always doesn't he don't deservedly he never actually knows how to translate that to the screen.
Right,
Um and,
which I don't hold complete fault to him, only
right.
because again, Alan Moore wanted nothing to do with it. If Alan Moore
True.
was
True.
present, then I think that would have made the ultimate difference between that and also V for Vendetta, which was another Alan Moore project. But if you notice, if you look at the credits, you never see his name because he
Yeah.
doesn't want to be tied to those projects. He's like,
True. True.
that's not my work. My work is the graphic novels, These movies have nothing to do with me. So if it's great, then good. If it sucks, I got nothing to do with it. And he did that on purpose because he feels that his ideas cannot be translated. And he stood by that. And he's right. Had he been a part of it, maybe it would have changed. I mean, who knows? I mean,
Yeah.
people love Swamp Thing. You know, they loved the Swamp Thing. From back in the day, it was campy as all hell, but people loved it.
Yeah.
The show was supposed to the recent show was supposed to be good, but that ended up getting canceled because it just got too expensive. So I mean, Alan Moore's projects, people should just walk away from them at this point. Stop
It's like it's
adapting
just
them,
gonna.
leave it alone. Yeah, it's just not. It's never. Something's always gonna come up. They're cursed.
It's funny. It's funny that you say that because I find it interesting that I know this is not to veer too much out of topic, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I find it interesting how Damon Lindelof, on the other hand, was able to capture that essence when he made the
True.
Watchmen show.
Yeah, yeah,
But then
you're
again,
absolutely right.
that's the rarity. And what happened with Netflix as a Sandman is that everything aligned.
Yes.
Not only was Gaiman there,
Yeah.
he was working hand in hand with as Goyer, which has that TV cred, right?
Oh,
Like
yeah,
all the
absolutely.
right people got together, and this is an IP that was in development hell for like what 20 years.
Long time,
Like, do you
decades,
remember the
decades.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt supposedly he
Oh
was going to do
God,
Sam?
yes, yeah, man.
So like,
I mean,
yeah,
it's hard, but the stars. It takes a while sometimes for the stars to align to really
right,
come up with something incredible. You
yep,
know, yeah.
yeah,
And this was
and
definitely it.
yeah, it was
Not to
definitely it.
mention,
Now, go ahead.
not to mention that supposed Sandman movie that is it named John Berg's the producer that is for some whatever reason want mechanical spiders in every movie he is making. He was gonna produce a Sandman movie that Gaiman apparently managed to stop through the means of releasing the actual script, and it
Mm.
was supposed to have a big spider in it.
I, if anybody likes spiders, no.
I know, right?
Supposedly there was a rumor that there was this idea that Michael Jackson wanted to play Morpheus at some point. Like
Wow.
yeah, it's
That I
crazy.
can see. That I can see. It would just fit him. I
Now,
can fit him that it's something he would like, not that he would fit the role. Just for clarification.
true. Now going back to what you mentioned about our lead, Tom Sturridge.
Hmm.
Um, wow, I haven't seen him in anything ever before,
Yeah, same.
but he arrived, and first of all, what a way of acting with no words.
Yeah.
Because I am gonna say it helped that I saw the novel, so I knew what to
Uh,
expect from
true.
the Sleep of the Just. I knew what to expect with that, which and I was very satisfied with all of that. Um, but his presence, the way that he carried himself,
Mm.
the slight movements, just moving his eyes, it's like I don't know, man. That guy captured me from the first moment, and then when he actually is up and about, the way he carries himself, the way he walks, the very slow and gentle gestures, like it's
Mm.
like he understood that he's the personification of something that's not real. You know what I mean? Like he understands that his existence is over the top, and he kind of carries himself that way, as opposed to being something very blunt and direct, like for example, Lucifer was, which was a more blunt figure. Which, by the way, Gwendolyn Christie was just
Yeah,
freaking.
that was a nice surprise because I didn't see the cast for like at all of who was going to do
Oh,
what. So when she
really?
popped up, I was like, "Hey, she's doing stuff! Awesome!" It was nice to
So
see her again.
yeah, it was great. It was great. Now, um,
She at least had more to work with here than she had in Star Wars. Just say.
Oh well, yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I mean,
she was a monotone monolith in Star
yep,
Wars. So,
yep,
cool, but a waste of her talents.
yep. And I'm glad that they're setting up something for
Agree.
her. They're setting something up for her for what's
Yes.
coming. right?
Yes.
Which I'm excited for. Now, um, there's a lot. There's 10 episodes whole. There's also a bonus episode, which I don't know if you guys have had a chance to watch. Um, but I love how they were able to capture because they cover the first two volumes pretty much from start to finish.
Mm-hmm.
But it also feels like an anthology in and of itself because of the characters that they picked and how they cross them in between the
Mm-hmm.
seasons.
Yeah.
I really liked what they did with the screenplay by bringing the Corinthian early on as opposed to just presenting him at the end. I like
Yeah.
how he was a force of nature from the beginning. So it gave a lot more continuity in the season. I personally,
Mm-hmm.
when I started watching episode one, because it's like one of those moments that because I've read it,
Mm.
it became a problem for me. It's like this doesn't happen. like, but then I saw that they're playing the showrunner game where like no, don't worry, we're setting stuff up to
You're
pay it
right.
off.
Yeah.
And
There's a
and
there's
and
there's an ultimate plan.
yeah, yeah, and it was great. Did y'all have a favorite character and or a favorite episode?
Desire, hands down, was my favorite character.
Awesome. Awesome.
Desire. They
Mason
yeah.
Alexander Park
The
was
min the minute that they hit the screen, the minute I heard their voice, I was already hooked. I was like, "Oh my god, I love the way they talk." And then they were on, they came out and I was like, "I love the way I loved everything about Desire." I was like, "Yes, this is Desire. Absolutely 100% totally nailed it. Phenomenal casting."
the presentation,
Oh, like just
the
incredible.
body, the heart,
Yes,
and then like
yes.
it was
Yeah,
great.
they dripped the allure of Desire. It
Yeah.
was just so incredibly well done.
I find it interesting how if because of the way they constructed it, like just looking at the character, you already know what they're about, like front
Oh
and center,
yeah.
there,
Oh yeah.
there.
100%.
No, it was great. The Desire
Yeah.
was great. So Isaac, did you have a favorite character or episode?
First off, did you know that the guy who plays Corinthian is the same guy that plays the quote unquote main villain, so to speak, in Logan?
Yeah,
Guy
Oh
chasing
yeah, yeah,
Logan.
yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
Yes,
That nobody
Yep.
knew who he was when he showed up.
Boyd,
Like we
Boyd
just knew that he
yeah.
was
Holbrook.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But also, speaking of favorite episode, it's honestly probably the one when he has the conversation with Death. And you see he meets the person who every 100 years talking about
Uh
life.
yeah, that was
Bob
actually a really
Gatling.
cool character,
How,
yeah.
from a perspective from a person that can't die, and how he look at life, how he talk about how people life evolves, all that kind of yes. It was honestly my favorite episode.
I
Oh,
actually
we're doing favorite episodes or favorite characters?
I was either or. So he
Oh,
pretty much
okay.
said death and the Hop Gatling episode. You mentioned desire. If you want to throw down, technically my favorite episode and character are the same as Isaac's. So if you want to throw down your favorite episode, go.
Oh, I'm trying to remember the name. It was the episode where John D goes to the diner. Was that
Twenty four
was that
seven.
24/7 episode 5? Yes. That was my favorite episode.
Yo, yo.
That
That
was an
was
incredibly shot episode. I mean, it was a roller coaster and
one
seeing
stage
him.
play.
Yeah, 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 and seeing him sit back and just seeing the amulet make all this happen in real time, and it wasn't just what was happening there, but what was also happening in the world simultaneously through the news, that if you're not paying attention to, you'll miss as well. But there were so many things happening, like what the amulet was doing was affecting the world, but we in real time were able to see a slice of what was happening everywhere in this diner, and I thought that was just such a roller coaster ride. I was like, man, that was a ridiculously good episode. But yeah, that one was definitely my favorite. Um, just above the collector's episode.
Yeah. Um, serial killers. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was crazy. I
no,
was like, wow, this is what the world came down to. That's insane.
yes.
Yeah,
Um, now the 24/7 episode to me is, I would say, the most impressive episode.
yeah,
Like, it's not my favorite, but I gotta agree with you. It's the most impressive because there's
Uh,
so much heavy lifting by everyone in that episode and every scene that occurs,
yeah.
and also the way it's shot. It's shot like an actual stage performance because it's
Yeah,
all in the
I'm
same room.
actually really happy that you brought that up because if you notice, I feel like that's really the only episode that you can show to somebody and they don't need to know anything before or after. That
Right.
you can just watch that one episode and
Yep.
be like, whoa, that was a crazy 30, 45 minutes of TV.
Yep.
You don't need to know the rest of the Sandman story. Like it lives in its own ecosystem within the entire story. I was like, oh, that's so cool.
It's awesome because the only little bit of lore or mythology you have there is the Dreamstone. That's really
Yeah,
the only real
that was
thing.
it.
And
Yeah,
then when you leave the episode, you can go and be like, "Oh, so this is the Dreamstone. This is what it does." And of course, with the big nice finale at the end with that
right,
whole moment directly from the book where Morpheus
right,
actually intervenes um
exactly.
as the savior of humanity at that point,
Yeah,
was just great.
yeah.
Um but it's also very impressive because when the season started and I saw how faithful, how delicate they've been with the source material, in my mind, I'm like, the most difficult chapter to swallow is coming because
Mm.
in the book, it's very raw. Like
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's I mean, it's a lot bloodier, of course, but it's
yeah, yeah.
very
It's way more
raw.
visceral. Hmm.
Exactly. So I'm waiting,
What
like, how are they
chapter
gonna
are you
do?
talking about, if might ask?
That is the chapter in the diner with John D, where he's literally making everyone tell the truth, and then you have these people that
Telling the
ma-
truth to
telling the truth,
apocalyptic, you
and
know,
then they rip each other apart. Pretty much, that's the whole
essentially.
thing that happens in the diner. Um, by the way, I forgot his name, but freaking Lupin from Harry Potter, that guy.
Oh,
Yeah, I forgot his name. David Thewlis, is that his name?
David Thewlis, yeah.
Yeah.
Thewlis or Thewlis, I don't know how you
Wow.
pronounce his
Wow.
last
He
name, but
was
yeah,
so
David
great.
Thewlis.
He was so great as
Yeah.
John D.
Hmm.
So great. So great.
Yeah.
Um, but the the idea, the psychology behind the fact of the power of truth and the necessity of a lie for peace, and like that whole mind fuck. You know what I mean? Like, because
Hmm.
and I gotta think, I'm not a parent, but I gotta think you guys as parents, like, you want your kids to tell the truth, but then when they grow up, you can be like, I gotta tell you why sometimes lies are boring. Like, it's it's a tough, like, conundrum because and
Yeah.
it's a moral and ethical thing, and it's like society's constructed on these very frail, um what's the word I'm looking for? Support system, or cornerstones, right? That we
Mm.
think are very strong. But this particular episode breaks everything down with the idea of, if nobody can lie, this is probably one of the things that can happen. Not
Yeah.
because not because, oh, by the way, I was waiting for Jack Nicholson to show up out of nowhere dressed as a Marine and be like, you can't
You
handle the
can't
truth.
handle the truth. Yeah.
like 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 Mortal Kombat whoopsie, like his like just Jack Nicholson's
uh,
face. Um, but yeah, that episode was just visceral, and it was very impressive. Because in a show that most every single episode, it's like this big part. Because remember, this is the last chapter in his epic quest to to be able to recuperate his tools. And
right.
every single episode has been great. Like,
Hmm.
episode 2 is the one, I believe, with Constantine, right? Episode 3 is the battle in hell, and then we have episode 4, which is what leads up to 24/7, which is episode 5. Um, this is a very close episode, but so powerful, and I'm so happy they actually went all the way. And even then, it's not as visceral as the book. But did you see that some of the shots of the way that they died was actually exactly like the book?
Mm-hmm.
Like especially the one with the maid and the eyes. It was just like,
Yeah, I mean, and that's what that's what made it so good is that again, sort of like the same as Snyder did with Watchmen. It's like there are certain panels of the book that just you need to see again to
yeah,
bring you that OG fan into it. You know what I
right.
mean? Yeah, and yeah, I got again nothing but good things to say.
Now, um, and I don't mean to keep Isaac away from this, but I actually want Isaac to read the book at some point. What was
Mhm.
that one panel that surprised you and you went like, they did it? Like, what was that one panel that you can think of, if there was one? I have one. Um,
Uh, it was yeah, I know exactly what it was. It was episode. It was either yeah, it was the end of episode 1 when Morpheus breaks out. Was that episode 1 or 2? I think that
yeah,
was 1.
episode 1.
When he finally breaks out at the end and he's like floating in midair and it's just like the light on him.
Yeah,
That was the one because again, this is
yeah.
the first episode. So I'm watching it, and it was funny because I was watching it while I was working out. I was at the gym, so I was on the stationary bike, and I'm like, oh, this is so good. And then when they did that, I stopped pedaling, and I was like,
They did the thing.
that looks amazing. And I was like, yo, that's the shot of him being lifted out, getting ready to be transported. So yeah, that was the one. That
So
was the
it's
one for me
funny
because
because
once they did that, they had me for the rest of the series.
right, because the fact that they paid attention.
Yeah. It's an
So
iconic
so
spot. That's an iconic part of the whole thing. Was him breaking out and finally like, seeing how the power affects him, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's funny that you say that because my favorite one is also in episode 1,
Oh,
but it's a little further ahead.
see, they knew what they were doing.
Yeah, yeah, it's clever bastards.
Hey, they did it all for
It's
episode
the
1, knowing that
English.
we were watching. They knew we
Yeah,
were watching. They were like, we're gonna
yeah.
hook all these fans in.
To be like, it's like I hate that you put the Corinthian here, but damn it, you did everything else right.
Of course, the teleplay for episode 1 was done by Gaiman and Goyer and Heinberg. So clearly,
Come on. Yeah,
if there was
yep.
any episode that was gonna hook us, it was that one.
So so when he's confronting Alex Burgess,
Mm.
the cat going up the staircase,
Oh.
the cat sitting in the chair,
uh,
and when the cat becomes Morpheus,
right.
he has the eyes
Yeah.
from Morpheus in the comics.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just the blackness and the
Yeah,
little
and the freaking
little
yeah.
dot of light.
Yep.
When I saw that, I was like, like that was my moment. That was the one that I went like, and even then, like when you go to 24/7 at the end, that whole thing
Mm.
where he has D in the palm of his hand, like that was another one that was like, they're doing the thing. Like keep going,
Yeah.
keep going. They're
Yeah,
doing the
man.
thing. Like, but that was my moment. But I would because at that point it was like very meta, because the I was seeing Morpheus in the show become Morpheus in the book
In the book,
within the
yeah.
show. So
Mhm.
it gave I felt everything. Like,
It gave me the goose pimples.
yes, yes, it was great. Um, now Isaac, you and I share the same favorite episode. Now that episode was great because I think in terms of construction, like if we can talk about the construction of the show as a whole, you got 5 episodes that complete that first arc. You got
Yeah.
episode 6, which is actually 2 episodes in one. That's kind of works like an intermezzo, right? And then you
Yeah.
have the rest of the show, which is 4, which is episode 7 to 10, which pretty
Right.
much captures the whole of the Dollhouse Volume
Right.
2,
Right.
right? But that one was a great way of not only expanding more on where Morpheus' journey is going to go from here, Because by the way, the development of Morpheus and how he grows as a character from start to finish is it's monumental and is very
Yeah,
very apparent. Like
yeah.
you can go to episode 1 and 2, that's a particular Morpheus. You go to the end of Faith, that's another
Hmm.
Morpheus. Episode 6, that's a different one. And towards the end, and also that one where you have the whole time travel element with Hob Gatling, which by the way, the guy that plays Hob is hilarious and so charming. Like if you
Yeah,
ever had anyone charming to like they picked like the cast again was great. I
yeah.
love the fact that we got Constantine another episode, which by the way, what was her name again? I have the thing here. Jenna Coleman as Constantine?
Oh yeah, she did a
Jeff's
great
kiss.
job. Yeah, she was
Jeff's
awesome.
kiss.
Yeah, she was
Like
really cool.
yeah, and it's one of those things like of course, you have quote unquote assholes that are going to complain because you know what I mean for reasons that we're not
Of
going to
course.
discuss because they're not important. But she was
Yeah.
amazing. She embodied Constantine. Like,
Mhm.
first of all, she was an asshole.
Right.
She had the accent, like the way she communicated, the way she carried herself was just great. And
Mhm.
also the gravitas of that episode, because the episode that she's in is actually one of the more heartbreaking episodes, more than
Yeah,
anything.
yeah, it's pretty.
Um,
It's a heavy one.
it's a heavy one, and also heavy on the book. But I love how they kind of give you everything. I love how they give you everything you need to know about Constantine as a character,
Hmm.
even though we may not see her again. But I love how we see the descendant, the ancestor of her in the Dob Geigen book. Now,
Right.
another episode 6, I love it because it's I would say is the most, I, to a degree, the most step by step, page per page adaptation from the book,
Mm.
especially the whole thing with his conversation with death. Um, I love how everything was environmental. I don't know if you noticed it. Like you never see the wings; you only hear them.
Right. Right.
Like you maybe see a shadow. Like it was more of a hear, don't tell kind of thing, which I really appreciated.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't know if you noticed this. I don't know if it's my HD TV, and I probably have been smoking, but I don't smoke. Um, but did you guys notice that as they're walking together, there's like a blur around them? It was weird. I don't know if
Mm,
it may be my
uh,
TV,
I don't think I noticed that.
but the way like you know how you have zoom in shots where you focus on the main characters and everything else doesn't look as clear. It
Yeah,
didn't it was I don't know if it was me, but I kind of noticed like a blur, like letting you know that these are like out of this world creatures or whatever.
I think you
um
imagined
but I love yeah, but I love the humanity that and the idea of how they embody um things that we need and things that we do, and how that gives him how it prepares him for the other arc. But again, the actress that played Death was phenomenal,
that. Hmm.
super charming.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't know, it's my favorite episode. It was just great because it's just like it's so there's so many sad things happening, but you love these characters so much that you can't help but smile, and enjoy the conversation. Which again, it's kind of like the whole thesis with Death is all these people, even those that are not ready for my gift,
Hmm.
I'm with them at the end.
Yeah.
All they're looking for is a smile and a
Mm.
helping hand. So it's like, what a beautiful way to talk about death that just transcends almost any literature that I've talked about. Because
Mhm.
you can't deny that this is probably how Neil sees it. Like this is very personal to Neil. I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised if that's his, you know, like if I needed to explain to someone that I care about how they should think about death, I would just show them this episode. Like it's that, you know, it's beautiful. Um, but the Hop Gatling episode was great, specifically the idea of friendship, companionship, and also that dichotomy on the idea of eternity, right? Like you have this being that's endless because that's what they called, right? They're called the endless.
The endless. Yeah.
He never ceases to be, and he's kind of like doesn't have feels that he doesn't have purpose, that he doesn't know what to do with himself. And then you
Mhm.
have this person that because he knows death is a reality to him, or should be a reality to him, he feels I have everything to live for. And it just flips the switch on that conversation of life is whatever you make of it.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to pout like a bitch, then you're going to be miserable your entire life. But if you decide to make the most of your life, then good for you and enjoy times with friends. But
Yeah.
the idea that it would take a human to show an endless being that they need a friend. I know that it's one of those arguments that I enjoy, that I love, in literature in general, and that's what I love about Neil's stories in general,
Mm.
because it's like he gets it, like just like Greek mythology and stuff like that. It's easy to say that all the gods in Greek mythology are just assholes, which it's pretty much true. But when you think about it, the reason most of them are assholes is because they think themselves above other living beings. But just because they're eternal doesn't mean they don't have the same needs. Because if that wasn't true, then why would Zeus? Okay, I'm not gonna do that. Um, but hey, there's a lot of Hercules. So, but I love the idea of eternity and those topics that they talk about, and that's why I love
Mm.
that episode. Um, now you mentioned 24/7. We talk about that. We talk about our favorite episode. Isaac, why is that episode your favorite? And I think Isaac's not there, but that's fine because we have a lot more to talk about. So you
Sorry,
mentioned,
There he is.
sorry. Sorry.
hey, no, you're good. So I
Uh,
mentioned why that was my favorite episode. Why is it yours?
I don't know why you mentioned your episodes, but it's honestly it's because it feels, at least to me, that it is the most personal, and it's the most, and I would say most philosophical, delving into the well, life itself kind of thing, and
Yeah,
not just dreams are important, that kind of thing. They talk about life as a whole,
true.
which is why I think it's such a good episode. If I dare argue, but maybe that's just me. I don't know.
No, you
Also
pretty much hit.
the girl playing Death is just perfect in the role. Also,
Agreed. Agreed. Now, can we talk about the collector's episode
That
and just the
was a great
idea?
episode.
Yeah, and just the idea of like when would this came out in the 90s, right? These books came around in the 90s. I think that the original ones, right? The actual graphic novels.
The graphic novels, if I'm not mistaken, yeah. Well, again, it was adapted because the original series came out. The original series was 89 to 96.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So so the fact that even to this day, and I think I heard someone talk about it. I think it was Kevin Smith and Mark Brennan. Like in all these years, the only person that actually made it a point to say, "Hey guys, cereal and cereal is kind of said the same way," was Neil
Yeah.
Gaiman, and it was just hilarious. And and I love how they played it for laughs in the show. I mean, it's
Mm,
horrible, it's terrifying, but I love how they played it for laughs until they couldn't,
right.
because it made it so fun and so horrifying also, especially like that one that just kills kids, like that one in particular. I think that was the scariest of them all.
Yeah.
um but what a great way to bring Corinthian's story to a close.
Hmm.
And the idea of him as a nightmare having a purpose, him wanting to be their own thing, but also being a lesson to dream and all that stuff. I wasn't. I never read the Dollhouse, so I wasn't really. I haven't read it yet, at least. I did it. This is the first time I meet Rose Walker. The whole thing about the dream vortex, which I found super interesting because it
Mhm.
kind of connects to the whole thing of um, dreams not being able to live without the people that actually dream. So
Right.
I like that connection and the connection
Yeah,
of humans
it's
to.
a symbiotic relationship between the
Yep.
two.
Yep.
Yeah, we each need one another.
Yep. And also the idea that throughout the show, all those ideas have been connecting to each other, which
Mm.
the cohesion throughout all the episodes is just surprising to say the
Yeah,
least. Um,
yeah, absolutely.
did you guys have a favorite bit or moment within that episode with all the serial killers, with Tony the Tiger, the Toucan Sam, and Snap Crackle Pop?
Um, I don't know. For me, it was really, there wasn't anything specific that like jumped out at me. Just the general idea of uh, Corinthians' influence as a nightmare running rampant in the world and what it created um, was really important to see because you start to question sort of like him, what's the big idea of a nightmare that wants to run loose? What are they going to do? Now, granted, he was a serial killer, so he was murdering people, but it was like, okay, but besides him doing that, the ramifications of him running around are far greater than just what he immediately is doing. So it's not just that he's killing people, but he's inspiring others to do the same and become serial killers and get away with it. So it's kind of like it shows why Morpheus needed to capture him. It answered it perfectly in that episode. This is why Morpheus needs to have a handle on these runaway nightmares and dreams. Is that look what he did? His merely being on Earth created a convention's worth of serial killers. That's insane to wrap your head around.
Yep.
That's insanity. He already like we can say his death toll was in the dozens. Can you imagine all of those people collectively? Like the body count in that room was astronomical, and that's literally just because he was there.
Yep.
I think that's really that was my big takeaway from that episode is like, yeah, Morpheus plays an incredibly important role, and it was him really realizing it and seeing how humanity also is affected by it. It was cool. It was wild, trippy as hell.
I love that you mentioned the idea of Morpheus's role because it also highlights the fact that Morpheus is just like what he is, which is a personification. Which, by the way, when Death calls her, "You're the anthropomorphic personification," you're stupid. Like, like knowing what they are. That he is neither good or bad.
Right.
He
He
is
just
an exist.
is.
He just is. He's
He
an
is.
existence,
Yeah.
and I love how that allows him not to be defined by a label of hero or villain or anti-hero.
Hmm.
These labels don't exist in this world because
Right.
that's
What
not what
what
matters.
endless do is done out of necessity, not because they're trying to be good and or bad. It's just
Right.
they are their functions and nothing more.
Right. And and I love how because of how what he's handling, that's one of the topics that's brought forth. Because, for example, as soon as you see DC or as soon as you see anything linked to it, you're automatically thinking about, okay, so this is the main character, this is probably the hero, right? But no,
Mm.
it's a flawed existence, or it's just an existence that's learning, that's growing. And the fact that we're able to see a show of this magnitude and not worry about those labels, it actually strengthens the story. Like it
Mm.
elevates the story to a place where it's able to have deeper conversations, which is what I enjoy. Um, but yeah, I like the whole I like what you said there about the necessity of Morpheus of making these decisions, which actually
Yeah.
sets the stage for the ending, for
Right.
that final moment where he has to make a choice about Rose. He has to do what needs to be done, and and and
Exactly.
and I love how I'm really hoping we still get a season two. I mean, of course they haven't announced anything,
Right.
but if we don't, what a great way to just, because this first season, even if it's considered a limited series, it's a
Hmm.
beginning and end that's clear. Like
Oh
you
yeah.
feel so satisfied. It ties the knot, the bow very nicely. Like if we didn't get anything else, I as a fan, I'm totally fine with that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there was no cliffhanger, which I appreciate. All
Right.
that left was the possibility of more, which is good.
Right.
I mean, unless you want to count Lucifer's thing as a cliffhanger, but not really, because it's like it's setting something up, but you don't know what. So you can't really be
Right.
upset about it. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
whatever that is still left to the
And
imagination. You know what
and
I'm
it's not
saying?
only that,
So
it's Lucifer. Lucifer gonna be tripping. He's always gonna be doing something. And it just so happens. You know what I mean?
Mr.
Yeah.
Morningstar.
Yes. Yes. Oh, by the way, can we talk about Tom Sturridge voice?
Oh man.
Bro. Bro. I need
uh, when he
I gotta
first
say it.
spoke, I was like, "Oh, is he doing something, or does he just sound like that?" Because man, his voice sounds like a freaking dream. That's crazy.
I need him as my ringtone. And I don't
You
care
should
how
have
that
just ended it
sounds.
right there. I need him, and that's it. End of thought. I
Sorry. It
need him. Like, well, Brandon, I think we have other things to speak about then.
um so but yeah, Isaac, did you have towards the ending of the season anything that you enjoyed, collector's episode towards the end? Anything you enjoyed in particular?
Gilbert.
Yes. Gilbert, Stephen Fry. The fact that we got Stephen Fry,
Uh,
that was awesome.
it was funny because when I saw him and he was like, that random neighbor, I'm like, he's got to be something else. There's no way he's just
Yeah,
this
there's no way.
rando neighbor. There's no way. And
Yes.
then when they were like,
Yes.
yeah, Fiddler's Green is walking around, I'm like, he's got to be. He has to be Fiddler's Green. There's no reason why they would bring him in to just be
Yep.
rando neighbor number 6. No,
Yep.
that was
And the best thing,
awesome.
yeah, yeah, and the best thing about it is that like it's confirmed before they say it.
Mm.
Like as soon as he sees the Corinthian, he's like, "Oh shit!" And it's like, "Ah, you thought you could? I got you."
I think even more interesting was that Fiddler's Green was a place, but when he came to Earth, he was a person. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, that was awesome. That was awesome. And it's funny because and talking about creations and wanting to live their life and whatever, he's a place that became a person that all he wanted to do was go places.
yeah,
Which is why all he wanted to do was read and
yeah, which
learn
makes
and
sense. It makes
yeah,
sense. You know.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. So I don't know, guys. I think we've said a lot. We've said a little. We've covered this show. Um, we all love it. We love it for different reasons. Sometimes for the same reasons, but I don't think I've seen a show in a long time that I can say that if this is all I get, because most shows are built to just create expectation for more, right? And sometimes to their downfall because they get canceled.
right.
But even then, because when they bring more, they just don't deliver, right? Um, because they lose steam or interest, or they just, things happen. Um,
Mhm.
but this is one of those shows that I can say I was so satisfied by the time those credits rolled. That, for example, when the bonus episode was announced, where they covered the 3,000 cats and Calliope,
Yeah.
um, when that was announced, I was like, I get more of what I love. Let's just, you know what I mean? Like, there's like a different attitude, right? Like, because a
Mhm.
lot of people that are claiming for a season two, it's like I had the completely opposite reaction. I was just so, it was so gratifying seeing that I was given this gift of a season. That's how it felt to me. We got this gift of the season that then you suddenly just gonna give me more. I'm like, okay, cool, let's go.
Hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. Like I was very satisfied.
And the visual effects. And the last thing is, I would say the music was phenomenal.
Oh yeah,
The music was just.
absolutely.
Cain and Abel were great.
Yeah,
Um,
they were awesome.
yeah, the whole thing with Goliath is like that's what we do. He kills me, I come back, and
I thought that was
um,
adorable
yes, yes,
in its morbidness.
yes, and just like in the book, again, great. The palace, the actress that played Lucienne was phenomenal.
Oh
I I was
yes,
blown away to find out that Mark Hamill was
Mark
Mervyn.
Hamill.
Like,
Yeah.
bro.
Well, it's funny because I heard it and I was just like, Mark Hamill? Because the thing is, like, he's known for doing that Joker like voice. So usually that's like his go to, like, that
Right, right.
interesting. Yeah, yeah, he has that thing. So
A
when I
nice
heard it, I
little
was like,
gravel.
no way. Yeah, he has this gravelly New Yorker kind of thing that he does. Um, so it was really interesting hearing it. And then I saw his tweet
Yeah,
later that night that he like put a picture of the character. I was like, I knew that was him.
yeah. Patton Oswald as
Yeah,
Matt. I mean,
hard to mistake his voice. The minute you hear him,
yeah.
you're like, oh, there's Patton Oswalt being that young, goofy kind of adult.
Yep. Yep. I mean, there's no complaints on the show. It was great. Um, anything else you guys want to say? You feel you said your fill?
Yeah. I mean, again, if nobody's ever seen it, I hope you're not listening to this if you haven't seen it because we just spoiled a lot. But if you haven't, watch it. It is absolutely worth it. And it's not something you feel you have to binge either. You can really enjoy every episode, one at a time. And there's a lot of juice in each episode. So
Yes.
enjoy each one. There's really no need to plow through it. Take it in because there's a lot. There's a lot to
Yeah.
digest, and it's very well done. It's visually beautiful. The dialogue is incredible. The sets are phenomenal. I got nothing but good things to say.
Um, yeah. I think if we keep on going, if we keep looking for stuff to talk about, we'll find it. But still, everything was just great. And
Yeah,
last thing, what you just said, it's a very dense show in terms of there's
yeah.
so much
There's
that
a lot.
happens in every single minute. Um, you can take your time and just watch half an episode and just it's great. All the acting is
Hmm.
great. And can we talk about the fact that what is it? That this guy that I've seen him everywhere, but he was also Charles Dance as Burgess was like
Oh,
that was a great surprise. But man,
yeah.
they brought all these great people to do it. So perfect cast, perfect score, perfect script,
Hmm.
perfect direction. The Sandman on Netflix is phenomenal. Go watch it. What the hell are you doing with your life? Go dream with Tom Sturridge. And in the meantime, I'll find my ringtone. Isaac,
There you go.
is there anything else you want to say about the Sandman?
I have a little figurine of the Sandman on my mantelpiece. It's scattering dust.
Wow. He couldn't make it without a pun.
There you
No.
go.
True, true dad. It's a true dad. So, guys, thank you for joining us on this new take on of the Shatter After on Netflix's The Sandman. We had a blast talking about this amazing show.
Hmm.
Hope you guys enjoyed our thoughts on it. If you have thoughts on the show, let us know in the comments below. Let us know your controversial or very loving thoughts about the show. And if you're excited for season 2, let us know as well. Hopefully, we get it. If not, let us know what you thought about the bonus episode and of the show altogether. Isaac, if people wanted to find you, where can people find you, my brother?
Well, you can find my work at Wobam Entertainment. You can find Amateur Otaku Pod, where we're talking everything from My Hero Academia, Attack on Titans, which come back in January, and now next up Chainsaw Man, Spy X Family Part 2, etc. at Amateur Otaku Pod on YouTube and every podcast fee except Podbean. And you can also find our and our Twitter at Damager Otaku Pod. And we are trying to quote unquote restart our Instagram again, which I don't have in at the back of my head.
And Mr. Moreira, thank you for joining us. We
Yeah,
made it
thanks for
happen.
having
We
me,
made it
man.
happen. So,
Indeed, yes. A lot of speed bumps, but we got to it.
yeah, yep. Now, biggest thing, I
Yeah.
know as of right now, man, you are everywhere. But if people wanted to find you and your work, where can they find you, my friend?
Best thing to do is to Google me. If you Google Rob with two B's, Moreira, Moreira, you'll find uh, pages of me. So Google away and enjoy. If you want to shoot me a friend request, go for it. I accept most people, except my Facebook. Don't go on my Facebook. I don't even go on my Facebook. Find me on Twitter, though. Go on Twitter and Instagram. Those I'm usually active on.
Awesome. And you can find me at the Scarlet Fan 52 on Twitter, at the Scarlet Fan 52 on Instagram. Guys, have it awesome. Keep watching movies and stay awesome. Peace.
Hej då!